Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Strzok and Page, who were in charge of launching this investigation, and they were saying things like, we must stop this president. We need an insurance policy against this president. That, in my view, when you have people that are in the highest echelons of the law enforcement of this nation saying things like that, that sounds an awful lot like a coup, and it could well be treason.
Could well be treason? A coup? That's Liz Chaney right there talking about, could it be a treason? Could it be a coup? Could it be more than that, Dan Bongino?
You know, large portions of America need to really wake up, guys. This really happened, okay? We had two senior FBI management-level people in the counterintelligence division, Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, texting each other about an insurance policy, what they should do to prevent the Donald Trump presidency in the event that he should win. But it doesn't end there.
It doesn't end there. To be honest with you, I was this weekend, I didn't feel good last week, and I appreciate all the heart, felt wishes that were sent out, even by people who can't stand anything I talk about, but were, battle with me all the time, were kind enough to shoot me some text messages. But I will say it was nice not having to listen to people talk about. I spent a weekend with my family. We're out at this little local resort where just kids were swimming all weekend. My son was out visiting. We just had a great time. And I talked to a lot of people this weekend. You know what we never talked about? Not once did we talk about Trump, Russia. People ask questions, because it was a local resort. And there was a lot of local people, and they asked me questions about, hey, as far as do you think he's going to be reelected? But they never mentioned him as Russia. They never mentioned any of that. One person said, man, I can't stand the guy, but I like his economy. But outside of that, we talked about 99,000 other things other than him. And it's so bizarre the way, again, being in a situation where you're not involved in it, as far as the day to day, you realize that the average person really doesn't care that much. And I keep saying it, your local politician, that person, your local state senator, your local mayor and the city council will have a much bigger impact on your day-to-day life than this. This is Hollywood. The other stuff is reality when it comes to politics. This is Kardashians. The other stuff is the day-to-day inner workings of politics that impacts your life, whether it be zoning regulations or new fees or eliminating a fee. That is the stuff that has a bigger impact on your life. And it was funny talking to people this weekend because I thought, some people came and said, hi, can I have a picture? Oh, sure, whatever. I'm no big deal. But and I was laughing about it. And they're like, hey, I love when you do your word. I love, some of these other things that we do. And I love your voices and stuff. And I'm like, thanks. And they didn't really ask about any of the stuff that you think, oh, God, that, if you're going to talk to you, because they just don't care. Right? They don't. Or they would say stuff like, these people are kind of, there's one person and I were chatting a bit about it, and we were sitting there talking, and the kids were playing, and he's like, the media's just like these people that are insane about all of this. I don't know how they do it. I'm like, they've turned him into, an entire institution. Right? So, which is fine. But it was really funny. But this stuff about it's a coup and it's all of these things. He's the worst person in the history of the world. It's all of this stuff. You're going to hear it over and over and over again. And I sit back and I think to myself, we're 500 plus days away from the next election. At the rate it's going to be Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is so far out in the lead. The way he's going to do it is he's just not going to do anything. He's just going to show up on that November night. It's the best. Here's the best thing we can do for you, Joe. Just show up in November and you may be president. That's it. That's it.
This was a coup. This was treason. Yes, I said it, and I mean it. After the election, after they couldn't prevent him, and after their insurance policy didn't work, their boss, FBI Director Jim Comey, against FBI guidelines, leaks memos to a media reporter to get a special counsel hired to investigate Donald Trump for firing the FBI director that made these awful decisions. Please rationally explain to me, if you heard what I just said, how else you would describe that.
Well, no, I think there's some fair questions, and there's some questions I have for all of this, right? And the question is, how do we get to a point where we have a special counsel. When you look at Carter Page and look at some of the stuff that they went out there and did, and they got some of these warrants and to tap and to listen in some of these things, to surveil some of these people, I think it's a very fair question, right? I think it is. But the people that are out there that want Trump gone, they don't care how he goes. They do not care how he goes. They don't care if all that matters is he eventually goes away. That's it. That's it. And over the coming weeks and months and years, you will hear things like...
And I think the American public, after seeing the proof, just as they did in Watergate, will see to it that this is the most corrupt administration ever, and that they will not support a senator who didn't support convicting him for impeaching him.
But that's not going to happen. Already, Lindsey Graham and them come out and said they can go ahead. The House does anything they want. Go ahead and impeach him. It's never going to go. It's going to die in the Senate. Just want to let you guys know that. It's a waste of time. And I don't know if it's the most corrupt administration. I think you could have questions before that if you're going to have questions. But as far as the corruption in the administration, it is just, he obstructed in a crime that he didn't commit over something that, at some point in time, you just step back and go, can we all move on? Can we all just move on? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Something interesting. Today, Trump's out talking about the crime bill that's out there and Joe Biden. And I found this to be interesting because he said this about, which it's not a good look. These are the things that drive me crazy about Trump. Why would you say something like this? This is the stuff that where people stand back and go, your economy's great. Things seem to be moving in the right direction. And you've got so many things going in your place. You're the incumbent. You're in the catbird seat. You should have a smile on your face. Your economy moving along. Things seem to be going really, really well. Yes, you're in the battle right now with China. Okay. Stay strong. Stay the course. I'm behind you with that. But when you say stuff like this...
Kim Jong-un made a statement that Joe Biden is a low IQ individual. He probably is, based on his record. I think I agree with him on that.
That doesn't do you any good. That's the stuff where I sit back and go, that's asinine. Why would you say that? That is absolutely asinine. That's the stuff that when people look at you and they talk about what they don't like, right? This is it. These are the things. The incessant tweeting of insanity at times, the craziness that's out there with the way that you talk about the media at times, saying they're the enemy of the people, which is not true. They're the enemy of you at times, but you're their enemy as well. So it's a give and take. But when you say stuff like this, I just stand back and say, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? There was no reason for you to say something like that. And then over the weekend, you had This is why people talk about Trump derangement syndrome, right? So for all of that, then what do you get? You get somebody that comes out and tweets, hey, guess what, guys? Guess what? Trump says this. And then you look and you're like, Trump never said that. Trump never said, well, he could have. It's plausible that he could have said this. He didn't say it, but it's plausible. Ian Bremmer, right? Here's a guy over at Time Magazine that comes out and says something about Trump, essentially saying that, well, he's better. He would be a better president than Joe Biden. And then everybody's like, well, he didn't say that. He's like, you're right. He didn't say it, but I'm paraphrasing. And it would be plausible. That's why you get the craziness you get in politics today. You don't get anything that's real. You don't get anything that you get both sides who are presenting their arguments of why this guy's a horrible human being and why this guy's a good human being, when the reality is he's just a flawed human being that's got some good ideas. And it's frustrating because you don't really get the truth. You don't. You get a bunch of baloney and opinions now passed off as news. And you get somebody who's crafting some news, and it's just, It was good to spend time with normal people this weekend. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. There is a lawsuit going on today. It's kicking off in Oklahoma, and it is very interesting to see what's going to happen here about the opioid crisis. And it is a crisis, and it's really ugly. And it brings back the battle of what's going on in the world of big pharma and all of these things.
Oklahoma Attorney General Mike Hunter starting the opioid trial, accusing Johnson & Johnson of greed in helping create widespread addiction.
They ignored centuries of experience, well-documented scientific histories of deadly addiction epidemics and embarked on a cynical, deceitful, multi-million-dollar brainwashing campaign.
Oklahoma and other states suing drug makers to help clean up the national opioid addiction crisis.
Yeah, and I don't know how well this is going to go. Again, it is very interesting to see the way that this thing's going to play itself out, because it is important that we talk about something like this, because the opioid addiction problem is massive. In the area that I live, there are people that are addicted to things like heroin because they started off on something else. Last week, when I was getting checked out by a doctor and everything was going on, they said, well, you know, you've got this thing here in your chest. You got all these pulled muscles and you've calcified your chest. Do you want? I said, no, I don't want anything. I don't even want any hard ibuprofen. I'll take an Aleve every now and then. And, you know, they said, well, you're going to have some swelling. It's going to be injured for a while and it's going to come and go. And I said, yeah, it is what it is. I don't want any part of it. And it's a tough thing because, you know, we've opted into a lot of these things now. And then you get addicted to it and you don't see it coming. And it's going to be very interesting to see the way that this goes and what happens in the future. You know, one of the things I've always said about the big pharma industry, for as many researchers as they have, they probably have 2 to 3 times as many lawyers, because they know from day one that you're getting into something that's going to cost a lot of money and you're going to get sued a lot of times. So think about the things we're seeing with Roundup, how big those settlements may be, because right now they're getting sued and they're losing left, right, and center on some, and you only need certain court cases to go certain ways, especially civilly, before this thing's going to change up and people are going to start getting out of the business. And then what happens? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from each and every one of you. I saw this weekend. So that those people who were supposed to be building a wall and they were raising funds, they built a mile. They built 1 mile, I guess, of wall in New Mexico. And they hope to have, I don't know how much. They're going to spend about $6 million to $10 million building a private wall. And I'm like, this is weird that we're, you know, I mean, if it's your land, you want to build something, I have no problem with that. But it is kind of an odd thing, right? They're building it all on their own. I guess if you can't wait for government, right? Take action. But it's only going to be so long. So all you have to do is go to where there's no more fence. And then you just cross there. Oh, yeah, there's that, too. But if you don't want it on your land, I understand that. Hey, I'm working with a great organization. You know, yesterday being Memorial Day, and to all the women and men out there who've sacrificed so much and have served and done those things, this organization is just amazing. It is called Wounded Paw. Every day there are thousands of dogs being just euthanized. And at the same time, at least 20 vets a day to suicide. That's where Wounded Paw Project comes in. What they do is they connect our furry best friends with our nation's heroes. It's amazing. They take these dogs that are about ready to be euthanized and they train them to be service dogs, and then they get them to veterans, first responders, and their family. And what they're looking for is vehicles. Vehicles. It's a tax-deductible gift. I don't care if it runs or not. They're going to come pick it up. It's a great way. Take action today. Turn your extra car, truck, RV, even a small boat, are you ready to this? Into actual change. It's doing something amazing. Easy, feels good knowing you're saving a paw, saving a life. Go to woundedpaw.careasy.org. That's woundedpaw.careasy.org, or call 844-678-4PAW. That's 844-678-4729, or woundedpaw.careasy.org. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Serving up talk radio medium rare and dripping with irony. It's Chad Benson.
We talked to another couple, and the wife persuaded the husband to actually go down, and they did have a basement, and she kept telling him, you need to go to the basement. Finally, he listened. They went in the basement, and within a matter of seconds, the house was basically gone.
That is Mike DeWine, Governor DeWine of the beautiful state of Ohio, talking about what's going on there, which is tornadoes. And why do I talk about tornadoes in Ohio? Because the weatherman was not happy about what was going on when he was trying to give the alert.
Well, this heavy rain is between you and the tornado. That's why this is a dangerous situation tonight. It's dark. It's also rainy. I was just checking social media. We have viewers complaining already. Just go back to the show. No, we're not going back to the show, folks. This is a dangerous situation, okay? It's nice, right? Think about this was your neighborhood. I'm sick and tired of people complaining about this. Our job here is to keep people safe, and that is what we're going to do. Some of you complain that this is all about my ego. Stop. Okay, just stop right now. It's not. I'm done with you people. I really am. This is pathetic. Dangerous situation here. All right, I'm sorry I did that. It just really bothers me that we have people that don't care about other people's safety around here. That's just ridiculous. New tornado warning here.
He's not happy, damn it. People want it. And what was that show? It was The Bachelorette. I don't care that people are being swept away. I don't care that they're getting crushed by tornadoes. I need to know who's getting the rose. Who's going to get the rose? Is it going to be Blaine? Right? Is it going to be... No, I'm thinking of names. Blaine? Bartholomew? Is that a name that kids use nowadays? Right? Jensen? That seems like something that somebody would get a rose for. Here, Jensen. Here you go. Blaine. Oh, my Lord. That was great. Man, he was pissed. Stop it. People are dying. He was right. People are so self-absorbed. I saw a great meme this weekend, and it was a picture of Little House on the Prairie, and it's all, this is what we look like after 30 minutes of no Wi-Fi. This is how we feel. That's true. Man, if you want to destroy the free world, just kill the internet. What will they do? They won't know what to do. Oh, they're going to tweet about the fact that they can't tweet. That's what will happen. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. People dying on Everest. Man is told you must leave Harvard because you, sir, are doing something that is promised in the Constitution. And I know you're teaching law, but these law students don't like it. Wait to hear the story. It just makes you shake your head. It really does. And the Fresno Grizzlies did something over the weekend that will make you smile, and then you should go, that's not right. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It's always been a dangerous game, but this year has been more deadly than most. At least 11 people are now known to have died scaling Everest so far this year. The latest, Colorado man Chris Coolish, who was 62 years old. He made it to the top, but died on his way down. His family said he died doing what he loved. Everest made him part of the 7 Summit Club for those who've climbed the tallest mountain on each continent.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. If you look at the tallest mountains, Mount Everest is the tallest mountain, and let's see here. It's about 29,000 feet. K2, which many people say is tougher to climb, is 28,000 feet. And then you've got several other ones. Our tallest is Denali. It's almost 21,000 feet here in North America. But what you have is people want that Instagram situation, right? Right, because if you were to climb Makalu or some of these other ones like Nanga Parbat, which is 26,000, that's huge, right? But it's not cool beans. It's not. It's not Mount Everest. It's not 21. It's not 29,029 feet. Think about this. Next time you're on an airplane and you're flying in the air, you're on a commercial airplane, and they're like, we've reached our cruising altitude of 29,000 feet. Just look out the window and go, sweet mamma jamma. This right here is how tall Everest is. And whenever you see pictures of Everest, you don't really have an understanding of it. And you got to think about this. Well, a lot of times when they're taking pictures, a lot of it's at base camp. So at base camp, they're already up like, 12, 13, 14, 15,000 feet or something. So think about sitting there next time you even see a plane flying by and you think, wow, that thing's who knows how high that is, 29,000 feet, 30,000 feet. That's how high it is. And right now what they have, and I watched this video of a guy who was on the way down, and climbers will tell you, real mountaineers, not the person who's an accountant who's having a midlife crisis, but climbers will tell you the thing that scares them the most is after you get there and then you start your descent. That's the fear that they have. And this is something that is really interesting. Think about this for just a second.
You have to qualify to run the Boston Marathon, but you don't have to qualify to attempt the highest mountain on the planet.
Yeah, think about that. Now, Paul is looking at a few different things into really limiting the number, and you have to, it's not free. You just don't go there and go, hey man, I'm just going to go climb up there. You have to buy a permit. Then you have to find a tour company. Then you have to find a Sherpa. All in all, it is about 50 grand, between 40 and 50 grand. And it used to be a lot more expensive, but because of there's just so many tour guides right now that the price has come down and you're not getting the best. And if you're going to try something like this, right? Like if you were going to dive with sharks, you're like, you know what? They're charging $300 over here to go dive with these sharks, and their stuff's good, but these people are charging 50 cents, and I think we got a 50-50 shot with them over there because they almost look like they know what they're doing. Have you seen that? Was it the Geico commercial? Just okay is not okay. Could you imagine like that? Hey, how good are you guys as far as summiting the mountain? We're okay. Just okay is not okay. That's something you wouldn't do that with if you were going to jump out of an airplane. Right? If you're going to jump out of an airplane, you wouldn't go, hey, we're pretty good at this. Like, we're like 7 for 10. You're like, I don't know. I'm going to pass. Like, if you're 7,000 for 7,001, all right, I'll give it to you. Some stuff happens. Maybe somebody didn't want to pull the chute. Who knows? But if you're 7 for 10 or 8 for 10, I'm going to pass on that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's actually a poll question we have today. If you could do one of these, free dive with a shark, right? Like a great white. Go to space. Producer Phil's going to space. We know that. We've always known that. And that seems to be the winner. Or climb Mount Everest. Everest is the worst, 9%. Dive with great whites, 14%. Go to space is 60%. But here's the thing with going to space, which I would probably say after it was established, I'd be all about going to space. I got no problem with that. But I want to see it happen a few times, right? And by a few, I mean many. I want to see it work its way out because there's going to be some bugs, and you don't want to be on that bug. But Everest, for me, would be at the bottom. There's just, and the people, man, when I'm watching this video of this guy who's like, look, they need to have some sort of licensing for mountaineers and the same thing for, licensing for people to be tour guides, because you'll have somebody who goes and climbs it once or twice and then they open up something and you've got to find the right Sherpa and the whole 9 yards. What you really need to know is he's taking these photos down. These people are just standing in line like it's Disneyland. And it's like a mile long. So you get up there and it's like a conveyor belt. You take your Instagram picture, you turn around, you start to climb down, and you've got to wait. And you're in that what they call the death zone, lacking oxygen. I'll pass. I'll try the great white shark in clear water. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. So we live in a world that is ever changing, especially when it comes to things you can and can't say and things you can and can't do. And this is kind of disturbing. We touched on it a bit last week. Take a listen.
A Harvard professor representing Harvey Weinstein is out as a faculty dean.
Did you hear about the law professor who just lost a job for daring to be a lawyer for an accused sexual harasser?
Sullivan was also verbally abused, and the residence where he lives with his family was vandalized.
Ronald Sullivan and his wife have been deans at this Harvard dorm for years. But now some students say,
as a survivor of sexual assault, I don't feel safe in Winthrop House.
This campaign by a group called Our Harvard Can Do Better worked.
Dean Sullivan must step down.
Woo! Harvard removed Sullivan and his wife from the residence hall.
Now think about this for a second. He is a faculty member, dean, somebody who's teaching kids who want to be what? Lawyers in the future. And they're like, we don't think you should represent this person. We don't think you should represent this person. We think you're a bad person for representing somebody because we don't believe a person like this should have any kind of trial whatsoever. It should just be RoboCop. They should just find him guilty right there and blast away, right? And that's not the way we do it in this country.
They feel unsafe, they say.
They're lying. They're lying.
Alan Dershowitz taught law at Harvard for decades.
Anybody who says they feel unsafe in the presence of a lawyer and his wife are looking you in the eye and committing the equivalent of perjury. They don't feel unsafe. They've learned the language of the new McCarthyism. The mantra of the day is, we feel unsafe. Well, that's just too bad. Learn to deal with it. You're going to have to live in the real world in which your neighbors, your friends, your relatives are going to disagree with you. And if you start using the criteria of unsafe in your life, you're going to be a failure. More important, I don't care if you're a failure. You're going to impose restrictions on the rest of us.
And that's my scare right there, is the imposing restrictions on the rest of us. Because as these young kids become young adults and these young adults get into the workforce, the fear factor is going to come that maybe, just maybe, they're going to start to do some things that are going to make us all feel uncomfortable because we're going to feel uncomfortable around them. What can we say? What can't we say? They're going to disrupt a workflow, and it's not all of them. But all you need is one person to change, as we've seen. You, in this day and age, one person sounding off can change everything. And that is think about what they did. They threatened them and they forced them to remove a person who was doing something. Well, you're guaranteed in this country to what? To have representation. And they went to this guy because a lot of guys like him, professors in particular, because big firms don't want to touch a lot of this stuff, right? You think they would. They don't. So you have to go find somebody who's willing to take it. Dershowitz talked about the fact that he was always kind of the last resort. Like, you need somebody, he'll take your case because nobody else would. Big firms usually don't. I watched over the weekend, I forgot it was good. It was a Tom Hanks movie where they called him into the office, and it was the Academy Award, the guy won the Academy Award playing him, the Russian spy. And they're like, look, you're going to get death threats, you're going to get all of these things, but we want to show everybody that this is what the world here in America is about. And it is about getting a fair trial, having a fair opportunity. These kids don't want that. They want their feelings to override facts and the reality of what we have right now in this country. Their feelings matter more than that, and they're wrong.
Don't the students have a right to say, look, we're living with this guy, he creeps us out because of what he does? Get somebody else.
Well, if they could say that, then they could say it about somebody who supports Donald Trump for president.
They do.
Somebody who is a Muslim, somebody who's gay, somebody who's Jewish, you name it. We need to educate our students that free speech is for everybody, due process is for everybody.
Yeah, but you're not going to get that. And by the way, if you feel uncomfortable because somebody who was wearing a MAGA hat, nowadays they'll tell you to go away. Because we live in a world where feelings and this bizarre world, I wish somebody would call them up. I feel threatened. No, you don't. You're lying. You're not threatened. Nobody's going to hurt you. This is insane. And if you truly, you're not in the middle of a dark alley in an area that's high crime. You're in Harvard. You don't feel threatened. What are you threatened about? What do you think he's going to do? I'm just curious. He's going to walk in one night and he's going to bring Harvey Weinstein with him and he's going to have Harvey sexually assault you? Is that what he's doing? He's like, Harvey, this is a perfect example here of how we go about doing things in Harvard. I represent people like you and we're just going to bring you on in and we're just going to go to town. Do you really think that's going to happen?
Their speeches cited an ever-growing list of aggrieved groups.
Ensure the safety and well-being of all students and workers in their houses, including survivors, transgender and gender nonconforming people.
It's like an Olympics of oppression.
Everybody wants to claim the mantle of victimization. The more victimized you are, the higher your status and prestige.
LGBTQ people, undocumented, documented, and TPS people.
And the more you can claim that you're part of the oppressed group rather than the oppressor, you win the oppression Olympics.
Indigenous people, first generation, low income people and people otherwise marginalized.
People otherwise marginalized is my favorite, because those are people that we need to figure out exactly how they're victims. We're not quite sure yet. That's like the player to be named later in a trade in baseball. We're going to give you all this and a player to be named later. We're not quite sure. We give you this guy. We might give you this guy. We give you that guy over there. We're going to give you somebody. We're just not quite sure. You're a victim. We're just not sure of what. That's the intersectionality of wackiness that we live in this day and age, where you have to be a special victim. Everybody needs a place, and there's a hierarchy even in that. And we talk about that with the Democratic candidates, right? Like Peter Buttigieg, even though he's white, he's gay, so he's up a little bit over Biden, who's a white guy too, but he's not gay. Kamala Harris is a woman. There's one. And she's a woman of color. There's two. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. You see where we're going?
You have to call yourself a victim today to feel welcome at many universities.
The protesters' strongest point is that the residence hall is an intimate space where students eat, sleep, and study. Shouldn't they get the dean they want? At the Marginal Revolution blog, Tyler Cowan writes, Harvard's right. It's about helping students focus on their studies, removing distractions. I can see their point. These people live together.
I don't see their point at all. You'll live in a world where there are going to be many distractions. You're not going to live in a world where you can determine everything according to your own view. If you want to do that, move to China or Iran. You want to go to American university, you have to learn how to deal with distractions.
And what's a distraction? I'm just curious. What's a distraction? Like, what is it? Well, Chad, that's a distraction. Well, isn't Instagram a distraction? You're supposed to be studying. Should you not be on Instagram? Probably are Instagram. You're probably on Snapchat. You're probably looking at YouTube for all kinds of things. You're probably not. Those are distractions. Could I not argue the same thing? But I just wish somebody on a college campus would just look at somebody and go, okay, tell me how. Tell me why you're afraid. What exactly makes you afraid? What exactly are you terrified? Give me a real reason. Because what? You think he's bringing Harvey with him? What exactly? You think Harvey's going to put it in his mind? Yeah, you should go back and grab these girls. What exactly are you afraid of? I'm just curious. Tell me, show me. Nobody ever does that. They just fall in line out of fear. Oh, good God. That's insane. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. If you had one thing in life you wanted to do, right? One thing. Like, this is my moment of doing something. Would it be climbing Mount Everest? Would it be free diving with a great white shark? Would it be going to space? You can tweet to me at Chad Benson Show. You can text the program as well. Hey, MyPillow is amazing. I had it for several years, and I will tell you what. I had a lot of problems sleeping. I don't anymore. Even this weekend, everybody's fighting over MyPillow. All of my family, we were like 16 of us. We were hanging out. We had all these hotel rooms at this beautiful resort, and I brought my MyPillow, and everybody was fighting over MyPillow, and I just was like, I'm just, you know what? Too many kids fighting over it. Guess what? It's amazing. You're going to love it, and they're doing something right now. 60-day money-back guarantee. You can wash and dry your MyPillow. 100% machine washable and dryable cotton. 10-year warranty. Absolutely incredible. And again, a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you got nothing to lose. For a limited time, my listeners can go to MyPillow.com. Make sure you use my promo code, Benson, right? When you do that, 2 pillows, $69.98. That's $34.99 per pillow. Lowest offer they've ever offered my listeners. It's only available at MyPillow.com. Use promo code Benson. 2 premium pillows, $69.98 with promo code MyPillow.com. Promo code Benson, or call 800-983-4975. 800-983-4975. Use promo code Benson. They're going to ship it to you for free. MyPillow.com. Promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
I can make you rich. Maybe it was Jafar's doing or something else, but Aladdin beat expectations in its debut this holiday weekend, an estimated $112.7 million. Pre-opening estimates were somewhere in the $80 million range. It's the 5th best Memorial Day weekend opening of all time. Of the other new releases, 5th place and $9.5 million for Brightburn.
We have to go to a party tonight. What?
Followed by $8.7 million for the teen comedy Booksmart, both a little lower than expected.
Yeah, not a bad, horrible weekend. I got to be honest, there's nothing about a lot of these live-action movies that Disney is producing that I look at and I say, oh, I got to have that. I got to go see that. So I got to be first in line because my love of movies. I'm always cruising the movies whenever I have a chance. And I looked at these and I thought, yeah, Brightburn I want to go see. And I'm probably going to see that sometime this week. And if you don't know what that is a low-budget thriller horror movie / superhero movie, but he's the anti-superhero. This little kid comes down from outer space, just like Superman, but it's the old what if. What if Superman came here and decided, you know what, I don't like you guys. I think you guys are a bunch of Richards, and I'm going to do whatever I want. And this is that kid who is kind of, hey, he's a bad egg, if you will.
When Governor Brian Kemp signed the so-called heartbeat bill into law, he vowed,
"We will always continue to fight for life."
But a lot of production companies, directors, and actors are taking issue with that. Some are leaving the state altogether. Now, Netflix is staking out its position in the Georgia abortion debate, saying it will contribute to organizations fighting the new ban, and, says Chief Content Officer Ted Sarandos, if the state begins to enforce the law, Netflix will rethink its entire investment in Georgia.
If, that's a big if, because they're not ready to do that just yet, but it's a big if. You guys better watch out, because those tax credits, you better watch out. Better not shout, you better not cry. I'm telling you why. We like those tax credits. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. It is the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
There are two races actually going on at this point, one for the center left, the other for the hard left. Former Vice President Joe Biden is leading the center left race. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are competing for the hard left rail. Biden's strength comes from a number of factors. There's the comfort factor. Most Democrats feel good about his service with President Obama, his knowledge of foreign policy, and his good spirits. Biden has also benefited from the absence of candidates competing in his lane. Had Michael Bloomberg entered the Democratic race, had Ohio's Sherrod Brown, had Virginia's Terry McAuliffe, if any of them had raced, Biden's towering lead would be substantially lower right now. His great advantage is that he hasn't had to share the vote for his kind of candidate.
Yeah, which is the kind of candidate that votes. It's a great opinion piece this weekend about the fact that the reality is, while there is the far left, right, the crazy far left, and this progressive new Green New Deal wing of the Democratic Party, the reality is the average person who comes out and votes isn't that. And they vote more often, and there's more of them than this small, loud group. He's appealing to the broad base, right? Aim small, miss small, aim big, hit big. And the other thing is, he's also in a situation where 4 years ago, this was a pretty crowded lane where Bernie's lane was pretty much empty. I mean, Elizabeth Warren was there, but she wasn't running. Really. She wasn't. I mean, she toyed around with it, dipped her, but she didn't really get into it, where Bernie was all alone. And guess what? Like I've been telling you, it's a traffic jam.
Bernie Sanders has had no such luck. Elizabeth Warren has been campaigning hard and at Bernie's expense. This means the voters on the hard left have two frontrunners from which to choose. Looking ahead through the debates, starting with our MSNBC debate a month from now, I see the three frontrunners, Biden, Bernie, and Warren, facing serious challenges. Kamala Harris is clearly becoming a challenger to both Sanders and Warren on the hard left. I expect Pete Buttigieg will make a good run down the center left, putting a challenge to Biden. A candidate's first task now is to outrun the candidates who offer much the same as they do. And before they can gain a majority of the Democratic Party, they need to clear their own lane of challengers. And that's why Joe Biden is way ahead of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, because he owns his lane.
Yeah. And the only one he's going to have in there, I think, is Pete Buttigieg. And that's going to be very interesting. That's going to be very interesting. But remember, the world of comfort food, if you will, we kind of like what we know. better the devil you do than the devil you don't. Buttigieg, I get hammered for it all the time. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's a very good guy. I think he's a really smart guy. I think for his age, he's a very astute politician. He's very natural, and it comes across. Doesn't mean I agree with his politics. And I know there's a lot of people out there who want me to say he's a bad guy. I just don't. I'm not going to do that, right? But he is going to be very tough, because there is going to be a group of people that like the fact that, hey, both of these people, we're more them than we are them. And both of them have to, at some point in time, go over to the Green New Deal ring and kiss it. And they have, kinda. But you look at Biden and you think, well, we know what we're going to get with Biden. We know we're going to get establishment. We know a lot of those things that we're going to get with Biden. He's not going to, he may say some things, but he's still an old politician that's going to not stray too far away from where he is. He's got a lot of friends on the right side, so maybe he could work a little bit. A younger guy over here, good, right? We don't have to worry about him. Maybe age could be a factor, and it's going to be, because Buttigieg has kind of tiptoed around that on a few occasions. And I think that's how he's going to come at it. I'm new blood, I'm fresh blood kind of things. And it's going to be, it'll be interesting. He doesn't have the baggage that Biden does, but he also doesn't have the experience and the understanding of Washington Biden does, which is we're seeing right now with Trump. You've got to have some people in there with experience really around you that aren't fringe players, but really get it to maybe get some stuff done. In the end, though, the thing that Biden has that a lot of these other candidates aren't going to have in just mass quantities, I think, is going to be money. He's got mega donors, and you need mega donors. And he's going to have a lot of them. He is. And sometimes it's just about attrition. You're going to outlive your opponent because you've got money to spend. And that's going to be huge. It is. But the reality is, when it comes to the fringe and the Green New Deal, and everybody gets a job and everybody's promised this and everything's free and all of those things, those people are loud and they're all over the internet and they're doing their thing and they've got lots of followers. But followers, as Nancy Pelosi would say, that she didn't care about followers, she cares about votes. People that like Biden will show up and vote. That's real. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. This is very interesting. We're talking today, we're touching on Mount Everest because people are dying up there, and it's scary what's going on, and it's you don't need anything you just need some money, and hey, I'm going to go try this. And you've got a lot of people. I watched the thing the other day, it was like the guy's like the first thing he's really ever tried to climb, and he was getting over something, was celebrating. This is not one of those things. You're dealing with life or death here. I don't think people really have an understanding of it, and you've got 11 people that have died so far this season. And I don't know if it's going to get worse. And the funny thing is, and it's not funny, but it is kind of funny, is what they normally die of. And any climber will tell you is their fear is the changing of the weather so fast there. And there's a small climbing season that you get to, and you can just go and you've got this time, and within 5 minutes it changes. The weather's been relatively good. It's the amount of traffic that is causing people to die.
Nepal has issued a record number of climbing permits to foreigners, along with a requirement that each person must hire a Sherpa guide. So that put 800 people roughly on the Nepal side of the mountain this year.
Yeah, so think about that, 800 people. But when you've got everybody trying to summit at the same time, and it's a small little narrow thing, you've got a line and it looks like Disneyland, and people are essentially just sitting there waiting 15, 20, 30 minutes in the most dangerous time that you are trying to get there, that summit, that death zone. And it's crazy. It is the picture last week. When I saw the picture of how many people are out there, I'm like, this feels like it's Photoshopped. Guess what? It wasn't Photoshopped. It was real. And you just step back and go, ooh, that's nuts. That is crazy. And just think about it. When you die up there, you stay up there, right? When you die up there, you stay up there. Although if you were going to bug out of life, right? Think about this, producer Phil. If you were just over everything, you're like, I'm out. I'm going to go climb. And you do the permit, you do the whole thing, and about halfway down, when you think you're good, you slowly just kind of drift away from your Sherpa, like, I got this, right? I know where I'm going, and you just never heard from again. You're like, I'm out. No, who's going to say? Because they have to leave you on the mountain. And the Sherpa's like, sorry, I don't know. He just paid me to get him up there and partial the way down. He took off. He disappeared. Sorry. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. My question to you today, if you were going to do something, would you climb Everest? Would you free dive with a great white shark? Would you go to space? And space sounds more intriguing. You're like, space would be great. Except we're not talking about on shovel. We're talking about private space flight in the coming years. Would you do that? Because I'm sorry, but I'm looking for, I need a few years of track record before I decide to go up and on somebody's, put together space machine from Tesla. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. The battle for abortion is continuing to go on.
The Supreme Court reversed an Supreme Court appeals court's ruling and allowed part of an Indiana abortion law to take effect. The law signed by Vice President Mike Pence when he was governor of the state requires fetal remains to be buried or cremated after an abortion, while also banning abortions based on a fetus's expected race or disability status. The justices allowed the portion of the law governing disposal of fetal remains to go into effect, but didn't revive the ban on so-called discriminatory abortions. By allowing the lower court ruling to stand on that part of the law, they did not take a position on the constitutionality, and the abortion ban remains unenforceable.
Yeah, so what you're getting here is what I said is going to happen. You're going to find through more and more of these states that they're going to, everything that's going to happen through all of these abortion laws is going to be challenged to a higher court. You're going to go to the circuit court, and you're going to go state Supreme Court, and then they're going to appeal it if they don't get what they want to the Supreme Court, depending on what side it is. And the Supreme Court, in this case, decided to pick and choose what of the thing that they would rule on. And the fetal burial, they said, we'll rule on that. Yeah, that stays. The other stuff we're not touching. We're going to go with what the lower court. That's why when we talk about courts, how important courts are, because if you've got the lower courts, district courts, circuit courts, state court of appeal, all of those, if you've got those, all of those, state Supreme Courts, all of these things, if you've got them going one direction or another, you and if you've got the Supreme Court going in the direction that you want, then what you have is pretty much, I don't care which way it goes. Supreme Court's going to rule on it in my favor, and if they decide to kick it back down, and the lower court is stacked in my favor, it's a win-win for me. That's why courts are so vitally important in this day and age. I would say that courts are the most important of all of the things that we have when it comes to our lawmakers. Right? The court itself, the Supreme Court itself, maybe, even though the three co-equal branches, I believe that they are the final say in a way that nobody else is. And there's 9 of them, and they're there forever. And, it's not 33 and a third. It's 34, 33 and 30. That's the way I look at it. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me, Car Shield. My family came out here, drove a lot. They were like, God, you drive so much. I'm like, I know. Came out and visited me out here. And we had a great weekend, and all of them have Car Shield, except for a few of the younger kids. When I say you need to get Car Shield on your car because it is the most important thing, because, the reality is you buy a used car. It's got a few miles on it, right? But you pay good money for a good used car, or maybe you've got a car and it's out of warranty. And you're saying to yourself, I'd like to protect myself in the case of what if. So where Car Shield comes in. First and foremost, you have 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for freeway cars in the shop. That shop is the shop that you choose. You pay a small deductible, they can get them paid. It's that simple. It really is. So check out carshield.com. Look at all of the plans they have. Make sure you use my code Benson, saves you 10%. That's carshield.com, code Benson. Or better yet, call them 800-CAR-6000, 800-CAR-6000. Talk to somebody there. Use my code Benson, saves you 10%. They'll give you the plan that fits you to everything you need, and they're going to treat you great. That's carshield.com, code Benson, or 800-CAR-6000, code Benson. Save you 10%. A deductible may apply. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Deal this.
Mueller, arrest me.
Chad will trade you 2 perjury charges for 1 collusion and throw in a reduced charge of obstruction for free.
Yeah, I'd do that.
For just listening to The Chad Benson Show.
Many have been there at some point, like Peter Gibbons in the movie Office Space.
I generally come in at least 15 minutes late.
When work becomes, well, unbearable.
We have sort of a problem here.
And you need a long vacation. But when does it become true burnout? The World Health Organization is adding burnout to its handbook that guides doctors in diagnosing diseases, making it a legitimate medical condition. The WHO says the symptoms include feelings of exhaustion, negative feelings, cynicism toward one's job, and reduced professional efficiency.
Or everybody in the history of forever. And why, we joke, burnout. Like, who doesn't burnout sometimes? Even if you love your job. I love my job. I love who I work with. I have the best job in the world. I work hard at it. I work extremely hard at it. I do 3 radio shows a day. People in my industry are like, you're insane. I love what I do. Doesn't mean there isn't time, like last week, where I was exhausted and I needed a few days off, and I feel 1,000 times better. Everybody can have a little bit of burnout. But here's the thing. When you go and you classify something like this, now what? Go to your doctor. Doc, guess what? I think I got burnout. You what? Yeah. Is there a test for burnout? Professionally, I'm just not feeling it. Just going through all the symptoms that, our buddy Alex Stone just mentioned there. And then your doc's going to I'm going to have to write you a prescription for R&R. Couple weeks off should do you good. You take it in. You're like, I got a doctor's note that says I need 2 weeks off. Your boss is like, are you kidding me? But now it's accepted that this is really a condition. So I can't get rid of you now. And now I'm losing productivity because you're feeling burnt out. You don't think that's going to be abused? Oh, my goodness me. That is so going to be abused. It is absolutely going to be abused. Totally. Again, most people have some form of burnout. Even a couple times a month. It's good to take a few days. Every 6 weeks or 2 months if you can. Take a day. Take a half a day. Just, it used to be a mental health day. But now you're going to be prescribed mental health days? Oh. Well, Chad, that won't happen. You don't think it'll happen? Oh, I could see people in Sacramento and San Francisco and Los Angeles and Seattle forcing people to say you got to do this. So you got paid family leave and now you've got burnout. Oh, man. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you, each and every one of us. The question today that we've got as we look at Everest, there's been 11 deaths so far. I don't know how many more we may have. The season's not very long. They have a climbing season, they call it. If you were to do something, right, if you would have that midlife crisis, because I think a lot of what this is people nowadays, it's an Instagram world, right? You got to Instagram it, right? Like you can't say I swam with the sharks. If you didn't take a picture, it didn't happen. So they're looking at something and they're like, well, I've climbed up my local mountain, so I should be able to do this. And $50,000 later, and God knows how long it's going to take you to go there because you got to acclimatize yourself. You go and climb Everest and people are dying because they're ill-prepared to really do something like this. So here's my question. What would you do? Would you rather climb Everest? Would you dive with great whites or go to space or some other thing? Text the program 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. And you can check out the Instagram as well. Got a picture of Jack and Winston hanging out yesterday in the backyard at Chad Benson Show. It is their Chad Benson Shoe.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And I think that you'll have the Senate will not convict him, no question. But I think we need to get the Senate Democrat to really get legislation passed and to change this country. And the only way I think you're going to see some of those Republican senators beat is if they don't vote for impeachment. They could get beat. And you've got Cory Gardner, and you've got McSally, and you've got Collins, and you've got a couple others that could get beat because of this. And that's not the reason to bring it, but it's reality. Instead of saying, well, the Senate's not going to convict him, let the senators do what they do and let them deal with it at the polls.
Very interesting. So, wait. People that don't like him, you know they're going to vote to impeach him. People that do like him and are in his party are going to vote to what? To not impeach him. So are you trying, it's very interesting the way that they're trying to do this whole impeachment thing. It's almost like they want to get a roll call of people on their side, the left side of the aisle, to say, I voted for impeachment, just to make sure that everybody knows that it's about impeachment. This is what it's about. Again, he's the most corrupt administration in the history of administration. Never been anything more corrupt than this. And you stand back and you're like, wait, what? No, wait. We don't even know all of what's going on or what's not going on. No, you do, because some of it's redacted. Doesn't make any sense. And I'm all for doing whatever you guys want to do. If you guys want to impeach him and that's what you think you need to do, go ahead and do it. I got no problem with that, right? People are like, aren't you a big supporter of Trump? He's my president. I want him not to suck. Who wants your president to fail? It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Again, it's the whole like, man, I don't like this pilot. I hope he crashes our plane because he's a jerk. It's like, what? It's a stupid thing. I want our pilot to be successful, right? And if it's really choppy, we have a bad landing, maybe we can say, you know what, that wasn't really a good landing there, right? You can criticize, right? I don't like the way you come on the PA system and say some of the things that you do. I got zero problems with that. But if you want to do it, just do it. Stop talking about it. Stop talking about it. That's all that they want to talk about, because they don't really want to do anything, because they want the American people. And this is where the American people are saying, we're really not into impeachment. It's not, we're not into it. We've got other things going on, right? We just feel like it is. It's just done. You guys had it. You didn't like the Mueller report. So, but there's other things. You know what? It feels a little witch hunty. It does. But if you want to go ahead, knock yourself out. There's over 20-plus investigations going on in this president. He may be the most corrupt, but I'll tell you what, he's sure now the most, investigated. And if you're that investigated and you're supposed to be that corrupt, you figured they would have found something super by now. Don't feel like they have just yet, but you never know. I could be wrong. There could be something else out there. But if we're going to investigate, let's investigate everything. All right, so let's investigate how we got to this point. Let's investigate the Steele dossier. Let's investigate everything. Let's put all the chips out there. Let's leave them out there. The cards are out there, the whole 9 yards. We're all going in. But when it's said and done, can we move on, please? We got other stuff. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. So I don't even know what to say. I've always looked at Mount Everest and this is, speaking of airplanes, we were just talking about that. Next time you're on an airplane and you're at 28,000, 30,000 feet, look out the window and go, wow, this is how high Mount Everest is. For whatever reason, in this Instagram society that we live in, this thing has never been more popular. And I'm telling you, part of it is that, hey, I need to conquer something, right? This is me being free, conquering something. And when I conquer it, I got to make sure the world knows. And so Everest is just, it's busy. It's like Disneyland.
There's been criticism of overcrowding on the mountain this year, with far too many people trying to summit at the same time. On May 23rd, for example, 250 people were waiting to climb. There's also a suggestion that inexperienced climbers are making it more dangerous for everyone else, and competition between tour operators is driving down prices, so corners are being cut.
Yeah, big time. It costs money to get on the mountain, just to let you know. But you've got these people who are having a midlife crisis. You have all these things going on, right? They're like, I'm going to lose 100 pounds and I'm going to climb Everest, doing all these things. And they're not climbers. They're not mountaineers, as they would say. They're none of these things. They're just, the average guy is an accountant who hates his job, right? Or, the mom that's working and she's a lawyer, but she's done with all this stuff and the kids are grown and out of the house and she's doing this. She needs to try something, right? It used to be we're going to buy a motorcycle and we're going to travel around. No, not anymore. It's now we're going to go to Everest.
They do lure in people who are who want to, participate in maybe the mystique of Everest, but are really not prepared to do so.
No, they're not. I mean, it'd be like saying, hey, you know what? I've always wanted to box. So if there's any way I could fight Mike Tyson, that'd be super. It's like, no. So you don't even want to have any warm-up fights, right? Well, I shadow box every once in a while. Fantastic. Here you go. It costs money too, by the way. And that's something that other people are talking about. The fact that the prices are going down. It's about $45,000, I think, give or take. The permit itself is right around 10 grand or so.
The Nepali government is already charging $11,000 for the permit. And many people say this is very expensive, it's very bad, but I think it's good to have a high price.
Yeah, and then from there, you've got to go out and you've got to find your guide service, which is also vitally important because you're not just going to, you're going up, but you need somebody who's been up and down.
There's a new level of guide services that are offering Everest to people at half the price that previous people did, and that's attracting a new population that simply doesn't have the experience to be on the mountain.
And I found this to be interesting, which look, you would think that you should have to have some sort of qualification, if you will.
You have to qualify to run the Boston Marathon, but you don't have to qualify to attempt the highest mountain on the planet.
Yeah, and I think that is silly, right? Like you figure that, okay, I'm a level 3, so you can climb, a mountain up to 12,000 feet. Because you get in that death zone, and what they're finding is it is so crowded. And there was a picture last week. I don't know if you saw the picture at Everest, but it was so crowded that people were essentially, there was a line. It was looked like Disneyland. You were just waiting to get on the ride. The problem is you're 28,000 feet in the air. You have that, what they call the death zone. So you're in the death zone, right? So oxygen is limited. You're losing your faculties are starting to go, and it's becoming a nightmare. And you ask any of the climbers who've done this on numerous occasions to understand what the reality of this thing is. It's not the getting there. It's the getting down that scares them. Because the weather can change. Once you get there, the hard part is getting down the mountain. And by the way, if you get sick, if you die, nobody's bringing you back. You die there. And when you go there, you'll hear it. You hear it all the time. All the trash you see on the mountain, which is insane. And then all the dead bodies, because they don't bring you back down, because you are now a liability. But it's an instant. I'm telling you, part of it is the me culture of being able to put this on your match profile. Oh, yeah, by the way, I climbed Everest. Not like, I've overcome something, or, somebody fights a disease and wins it. Now they want to do this. I'm like, really? So you beat cancer, and now you want to die in Nepal. Interesting. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Colin Quinn, who I find to be very interesting, it's got a new show that's out, and it takes on all sides, the blue, the red. It's kind of like a comedy show. It's very interesting. Some of the stuff that he was talking about was hilarious, and this is just a bit of his new show. And I'm telling you guys, I love Colin Quinn because he still has one of my favorite lines on his last comedy thing is, why does it have to be a Mexican in your true story? He goes, this is how insane we are. But he talks about all kinds of stuff in this. And again, he is that reasonable world that should be having a bigger voice in conversation that gets left out.
Some of the big promises we did live up to. The big one, when I was a kid, they said the reason the United States is so great, anybody can grow up and become president of the United States. Hey, they said anybody. They weren't kidding on that one. But just because Trump spends all day on Twitter inflicting his severe psychological damage on all of us doesn't mean you don't do the same thing. Because Trump is more than just a person and less than just a person, ironic. He's an idea. Because if you're crouching as a plumber under a rusty sink after the age of 40 with bad knees, a 3 Bavarian cream habit a day, and a 12-year-old truck, you don't like being told to acknowledge your privilege. And everybody's telling you to do that except Trump.
Yeah. That's and if you guys didn't quite understand that, what he's basically saying is he's giving voice to those people out there who are told by elites everywhere, you've got to be like this, you've got to be like that, you've got to understand who you are, right? And he's saying no, right? Trump is the voice for a lot of people out there, especially in flyover country, who are sick and tired of the elites in New York and Los Angeles feeling like they had their say and that the world should be more like what it is that they're doing and they're putting out there and that their life is so much better. And, you know, we've heard it. We've heard Bill Maher talks about how much it sucks to live in other places. If you don't live in L.A. or San Francisco or New York and you're not woke enough, and over and over we've heard that. And he has given voice to so many people who are sick and tired of being talked down to and talked over. And that's where Trump came in.
Because it's easy to be charitable when it's not your job on the line, right? I mean, right now, you know and I know, somewhere out there, south of the border, there's a Mexican George Clooney, better looking than George Clooney, a better actor, more charismatic. And he would do George Clooney movies for 1/20th the salary that George does it for. And if he ever makes his way up north, George Clooney might be chanting, build that wall, build that wall.
He's right, right? Somebody's willing to do it cheaper. Somebody's willing to do it as good, if not better. You would say the same damn thing. It's like we talk about all the time, right? Like the people out there who scream and yell, the homeless thing is horrible and we've got to be more charitable. And they're like, well, we're going to build a giant homeless shelter in your neighborhood. And they're like, well, I don't want them to be that charitable. I mean, you could be charitable. You should do it somewhere else. It's all fun and games until it lands on your front door. Then you don't want any part of it. But you're sick and tired of being told that you have to be this way, i.e. you have to acknowledge your privilege as the 40-year-old father of four plumber who needs to recognize his male white privilege as he struggles to survive. And seeing other people come here when he's like, you know what, we need a wall. We need to do something about this because I'm competing against people who are charging 1/10 of the price and not playing by the rules, and you're being told you're a racist. Understand your white male privilege. Frustration, yeah. Understand that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Love hearing from you. Hey, stop me if you ever heard this one. Burglars, case in the joint. What do anymore? They knock on the door. It's that simple. Yeah. You ask burglars, and burglars they've talked about it for years. The thing is they do is if you're not home, what happens? Oh, nobody's home, right? Nobody's home. So we're going to try to break into these places. That's where Blinks come in. They've got the answer. Blink X2 cameras. Motion detective. Someone gets near your cameras. You get an alert on your Blink smartphone app with the video clip. Even better is a two-way talk feature that lets whoever's there telling the delivery guy to leave the package there, saying hi at the kids, the front door. Hey, what's going on, kids? Or if there's somebody bad saying, I'm home, what's going on? What do you need? Oh, wait, no, I don't want any of that. Yeah, they're going to leave. They want the easiest thing they can do. Blink is amazing. Blink cameras, easy to set up. Within minutes, you can set it up, right? Absolutely credible. Wire-free, run on 2 lithium batteries, last up to 2 years. And Blink X2 cameras start under $100. No contracts, no subscription. Totally affordable thanks to Blink. It's home security just got so much easier. Visit blinkprotect.com/Benson. That's blinkprotect.com/Benson. Blinkprotect.com/Benson. Blink cameras are available on Amazon, at Best Buy. Blink is an Amazon company, and it works with Alexa, which is awesome. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Deep states? No. Deep doo-doo? Yeah. The Chad Benson Show.
I just say mercy. I'm looking at the sky like, just please pick me up. I'm ready. I've learned. I feel like this is my soul's journey. I know this is an essential part of my story and my being here on earth, but I'm ready. And I call mercy, and I choose free will, and I say no.
That is Amanda Eller. She was lost for 17 days in Hawaii. I was like, really? 17 days? My skepticism anymore comes out. I'm like, Hawaii? Can't you walk like 4 days, walk across the islands? But she was in the jungle. Apparently it was thick. She was hiking on her own. They offered a $50,000 reward. And she was out there for 17 days. And she's all over TV today. And She had a broken leg, apparently, and she was really sunburned. And the first thing that came to my mind, she was out there 17 days. That show, Naked and Afraid, is 21 days. And they're naked and afraid. I'm just letting you guys know that.
You lose hope, and your hope meter starts to decline a little bit. And then as the sun starts to go down, you're like, okay, another night alone. How am I going to stay warm? How am I going to stay alive?
Ask the naked and afraid people. They can stay warm, and sometimes they're cold. And they're naked. You probably weren't naked. And they're afraid. I'm just saying. They're naked and afraid. Still, Producer Phil, do you think people just go in and go like, I got a great idea. This is going to be awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take some people that are ill-equipped to do too many things, kind of some hipster people. We're going to stick them with somebody who's kind of the exact opposite of them, but we're going to make them buck naked, and then we're going to stick them out in some island somewhere, and we're just going to film it. Really? Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And at the end of it, we're like, hey, you're a winner, and this is what you get. And they'll hurt themselves, and they'll cut their foot, and, it'll be bad at times, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. And they're like, oh, my God, they totally gave us a show. How about Naked Astronaut? Would we do that one? Phil, you'd be Naked Astronaut. You're good with that.
Sure, why not? As long as I'm in space.
Floating around. Dangly bits flying everywhere. What's up, Naked Astronaut? I'm just sitting there thinking, really? 21 days in Hawaii. You could be worse places. You think homeless people, if they heard this, they'd be like, really? Really? I'm just saying. But listening to her, the first thing came to my mind, she's writing a book. She's writing a book, and she's going to be all over TV. Somebody that'll be on TV probably next year in a horrible way will be this family.
Rescuers on jet skis work in vain to save a man killed in a vicious shark attack. Thomas Smiley, a father and grandfather to 6, had just retired, enjoying a vacation on Maui. He was swimming 60 yards off the coast when he was mauled Saturday. His wife on shore in utter panic.
Watching the whole thing happen. And if you get anything out of the segment, apparently it's don't go to Hawaii. Should be the thing you take away from this. But I was telling Phil, man, you don't realize nature, as we all know, will mess you up. But I was watching something last night on National Geographic as one of those Deadliest Week, and they had shark attack, and they showed this person had been attacked by a tiger shark, and they showed the pictures of his leg. And I would say legs, but that wasn't there. One was missing, and the other one was dangling, held on by his Achilles. And I just thought to myself, you go into nature, and this is whether you're climbing Mount Everest or in the woods or wherever, it at times will mess you up. That's something you do. That's something you do, and it's awful. It is awful, but it is true. And that guy was celebrating his retirement. How just as awful situation. Again, if you take anything away from this, probably don't go to Hawaii. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. It is the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
There are two races actually going on at this point, one for the center left, the other for the hard left. Former Vice President Joe Biden is leading the center left race. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are competing for the hard left rail. Biden's strength comes from a number of factors. There's the comfort factor. Most Democrats feel good about his service with President Obama, his knowledge of foreign policy, and his good spirits. Biden has also benefited from the absence of candidates competing in his lane. Had Michael Bloomberg entered the Democratic race, had Ohio's Sherrod Brown, had Virginia's Terry McAuliffe, if any of them had raced, Biden's towering lead would be substantially lower right now. His great advantage is that he hasn't had to share the vote for his kind of candidate.
Very interesting. I read a great article this week about the fact that Biden is occupying a place that most voters occupy. It's the thing that we talk about here. Identity politics isn't working. It isn't. It's not working at all. they don't move the needle. They get people to pay attention, right? Because you scream and you yell and you shout from the top of the mountain and you're woke and you do all of these kind of things and you talk about all this stuff, and it really doesn't work. It doesn't. Because the average person isn't that woke. They're common sense. They're center left or center right. They're not uber right. They're not uber left. They're just kind of day-to-day Americans living their life, want equal opportunity, realize life's not always fair. But, you know, they're not this moved by the Green New Deal, moved by identity politics, fine with 25 different pronouns and all of the, you know, that's not who they're just like you and I, going to work every day, busting their ass, living day to day, and everybody else is jockeying for positions. And again, he's occupying a lane right now, Biden, of common sense. He says the things, and I think he placates the people on the far left just so they'll stay off his back a little bit. Right? Because you have to go and kiss the Green New Deal ring. The reality is watching people fight over Ocasio-Cortez and the Green New Deal and getting her, you know, just getting her, yes, you have my blessing, is insane. And Biden is just going, I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to be quiet, which is helping him a little bit. He's been gone for 10 days, kind of disappeared. I said, maybe he's on Everest. I don't know. But on the other side of things, you've got a lane that wasn't really occupied much. Bernie was the only one in it, with Elizabeth Warren not in the race, but in the lane. Now everybody's in there, and they're finding it hard going.
Bernie Sanders has had no such luck. Elizabeth Warren has been campaigning hard and at Bernie's expense. This means the voters on the hard left have two frontrunners from which to choose. Looking ahead through the debates, starting with our MSNBC debate a month from now, I see the three frontrunners, Biden, Bernie, and Warren, facing serious challenges. Kamala Harris is clearly becoming a challenger to both Sanders and Warren on the hard left. I expect Pete Buttigieg will make a good run down the center left, putting a challenge to Biden. A candidate's first task now is to outrun the candidates who offer much the same as they do. And before they can gain a majority of the Democratic Party, they need to clear their own lane of challengers. And that's why Joe Biden is way ahead of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, because he owns his lane.
Yeah, he owns his lane. He owns his lane. He's in that lane. He owns it. Now, Buttigieg could come in and take a little bit of that, because I think the guy's got a lot going for him. I think he's a smart guy, and every time I talk about him, I get a bunch of people who tell me what an awful human being I am. How dare I like somebody who's gay? I may not like his politics, but I think he's a smart dude, right? But it is funny because as I read this article, the reality is what they say in the article is pretty simple. The woke group, the group that is activists, the group that are active on social media that make all of this loud noise is small, and they don't vote. The people that don't make noise, you know what they do? They show up at the polls. They vote. They don't say anything. They don't do anything crazy. They may stick a something in their yard in the front, that little sign that says vote for Biden and whoever. But what they don't do is go on social media and scream and yell. But they do vote. And in the end, Nancy Pelosi said it a couple weeks ago, having millions of followers on Twitter doesn't mean millions of votes. That's where it matters. And that's where Biden has the advantage. But they also went on, and if you read the article, it's really amazing. They also go out to point on, he's doing so well with, they came out today, and he's doing so well with blacks. He does well with Hispanics, right, and women, comparatively to Trump. Trump's out there today saying anybody who at all votes for Biden, you just can't do it because he's part of that, that bill in 94 that just destroyed and decimated the African-American community. And look what I've done. I've rolled back all these things. I've made it. The reality, though, is Republicans across the board have failed. They talk about the fact that in this article that I think is amazing is the fact that black community in a lot of ways is very conservative. Republicans never do well. And that's because they don't go and talk to them and meet with them and sit down with them. They figure they've lost that. Same thing with the Hispanic community. By and large, especially an older Hispanic community, is what? Pro-life, pretty conservative in a lot of ways. And yet at the same time, they drop the ball. They miss it over and over again. It is crazy. I think Biden, though, I don't think Biden is going to get a lot of the first few months here is going to get a lot of blowback. But when it starts to narrow it down to the Kamala Harrises and the Buttigiegs, when it's not 20 people on a stage, because we saw that last year, and somebody may make a move here and there, but it's going to get to that point. And remember, he's got the one thing that they all want, which is staying power because of money. He alone may stay in this thing long enough because of the money, which is massive. That plays a huge part in this. Money, money, money. The more money you have, the longer staying power. So there may be people who do a little bit better in the polls or do better on that stage, but money alone may keep you around long enough that you might be the last one standing. And he plays well with Main Street and Wall Street. Big donors really put you over the top. Bernie may get there nickel and dime, $20 here, $15 there. But right now he's got to compete in the lane where everybody else is doing the same thing, reaching for those same grassroots kind of thing. There's only so much of that money to go around in the big Wall Street world, in the big world of the insurance world, in the big world of big oil, big pharma, all of that stuff. There's plenty of money to go around. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Many of you, I suffered from this last week a little bit.
Many have been there at some point, like Peter Gibbons in the movie Office Space.
I generally come in at least 15 minutes late.
When work becomes, well, unbearable.
We have sort of a problem here.
And you need a long vacation. But when does it become true burnout? The World Health Organization is adding burnout to its handbook that guides doctors in diagnosing diseases, making it a legitimate medical condition. The WHO says the symptoms include feelings of exhaustion, negative feelings, cynicism toward one's job, and reduced professional efficiency.
Okay, so burnout as a real problem. Producer Phil, don't you think every human being at some point in time, even if they love their job, has some burnout?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I love my job. I love what I do. I'll be honest, last week I was exhausted and took some time off, and it was needed. But burnout as a job? Who doesn't have burnout at some point in time? Working 50 hours a week, busting your ass. You may love what you do. You don't even look at it as a job. It is your calling. It's what you do. You're still going to have times when you burn out. But really, gaming is also being put into it as a problem. Addiction to gaming. Oddly enough, compulsion for sex is going to be put in the handbook, but it's not going to be classified as an addiction, which is weird. But just think about this. The more that you have, so now you're going to be able to get a note from your doctor that says burnout. I'm a burnout. I'm burnt out. Doc, I'm burnt. I'm burnout. It's just totally burnout. I just can't do it. I'm burnout. I'm burnout. My doctor wrote me a note that says I'm burnout. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm tired. You know, in Europe, you could take a sabbatical. Same thing you could do in colleges. You know, if you're a university professor or, you know, something like that, you take a sabbatical for a year and just go follow your heart and whatever, and your position's there. Maybe we'll start doing that. Maybe we'll start giving people opportunities. Because, you know, we're already arguing. Think about this. We're already arguing over whether or not you should have paid time off and paid leave when it comes to family. Now we're going to be forcing businesses to say, hey, I want to take a year off. I'm burnt out, and professionally I'm not doing enough for you because I'm so burnt out. And you're going to get a doctor's note, and you're going to be stuck going, all right, I got to let this guy out now. Oh, geez. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. There's been 11 deaths on Mount Everest in the last couple weeks. It is awful up there. And we've been talking a bit about this. I was thinking to myself, if you have that one thing. Now, we talked about it earlier, Phil, like some people want to go to space. You do space, you wouldn't do Everest because you want to go to space. That's your dream.
Oh, yeah, if I have a choice, I'm going to space.
Yeah. I would do space over Everest if only I got to see people come back, though. I've got to see it work on a few levels. I can't say You know, I want to be the first one to try it because I have a feeling there's going to be some growing pains because it could be great the first 6 times, but I want to see it, you know, I don't want a max air thing like we saw from Boeing, right? Like where Amazon comes on and goes, here's the deal, you know, or Tesla, you know, yeah, all right, here's what happens, right? So it was going really good like the first 8 times, but this 9th time, they're not coming back. And that costs a lot of money not to come back. Going to Everest is not, you know, here's the perfect thing. What about this? Extreme vacation privilege. Right? Because you're not shooting poor people. But you're not shooting poor people into space. And you're sure not, if you're poor, your ass isn't climbing Everest unless you're a Sherpa. So there's extreme vacation privilege. We've coined something new. Oh, such white privilege. Jim over there climbed Everest. Oh. You can't even do that now. It's like you could post a picture on Instagram about you climbing Everest, and then people will say, first of all, you've got extreme privilege for even having the opportunity because it costs about $50,000 to climb it. Can't win. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Car Shield is awesome. My family's got it. Everybody's got it. You should get it. Why should you get it? Because it's amazing. My family they drove out to see me, and they were like, oh my God, I don't know how you do this every other week to go see, you know, Jack and do all the things you do. I'm like, oh, it's just what I do. And they're like, doesn't it put a ton of miles on your car? I'm like, yeah, but I don't care. I've got Car Shield. And they've got Car Shield, but like not on all the cars. The kids don't have it on theirs. So I got younger brothers and sisters. And I'm like, you got to get it on every single one of them, especially a kid's car. Because you buy a car. It's a perfect example. You go out and you buy a kid's car for like, you know, you spend $5, $6, $8 grand. You buy a car, it's got 80,000 miles on it. It doesn't have a warranty on it. What are you going to do with that? You want a little protection because you know, might go south at some point in time. So that's where Car Shield comes in. With Car Shield, they make the entire process of cover repairs so easy. 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. And by the way, that shop is the shop that you choose, right? So you take it to the dealership, take it wherever you want to take it. They'll get them paid directly. You pay a small deductible. They are amazing. They're going to treat you great. They've got all kinds of plans. Find out what's right for you. Give them a buzz today. 800-CAR-6000. 800-CAR-6000. Use my code Benson. Saves you 10%. Or go to carshield.com. Carshield.com. Again, use my code Benson. BENSON to save yourself 10%. A deductible may apply. At Chad Benson Show. Twitter. CHADBENSON. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show, where we make no apologies, although we do say a few Hail Marys and Our Fathers now and then. Amen.
Oklahoma is just one of 42 states suing drug companies with the claim those drug makers weren't honest with patients on how addictive their opioid medication was. The state says Johnson & Johnson should pay for 2 decades of rising opioid addiction. Purdue Pharma, which makes OxyContin, avoided today's court date by offering a $270 million settlement with Oklahoma.
Yeah, can you imagine that? And opioids, I mean, we have a problem. They were overprescribed, and did the doctors know how addictive they were? Did the pharmaceutical companies know how addictive they were? I'm sure at some point they realized, hey, these things could be addictive. At first, probably not. But along the way, they probably figured it out. And like everything else, they protected profit. And they're going to pay for that through the nose to the tunes of hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. And when I talk to people who are investors, you know, who put money into things, what they're saying is big pharma and pharma itself is not a winning proposition anymore. It used to be an opportunity for business to make money, but it's not because of the bad press, number one. You're never good. You could find the cure for cancer, but because you're going to charge for it, you're automatically a bad human being. And people are like, no, they shouldn't be allowed to charge for it. I'm like, well, why would you do it then? Like, there's a new drug that they just now gave a patent to and FDA approved to come out. And it's for a very rare disease. And the cost for it is about $2.5 million. And people are like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, it is. It is. But there's maybe 300 to 500 cases a year. That's not a lot. Right? And the money's in the stuff that's a lot of stuff. Like, people have headache. There's money in that. Right? Because just about everybody gets a headache. It's tough. And it's a nightmare. Big Pharma. And they're going to pay through the nose. You see what's going on with Roundup. Roundup, for God's sakes. You only have to get to the point where think about this. These are states in this taking on Big Pharma. Think about the individuals now that are going to be coming up taking on Big Pharma along the way. And the settlements that are going to have to come through those. It is going to get ugly. And so, what do you do? At some point in time, you step back and say, well, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to look for other things to do. And this isn't. We milked it as long as we could. Can't do it anymore. And for Americans, we're going to have to figure out a way to pump. Some of this is on Americans to figure out how we can manage pain. How do we manage pain? What can we do better to manage pain? Which I think is the new thing that's going to happen is pain management. You're going to see an explosion in that because people don't want to be addicted anymore. But some of it may be unavoidable because you're going to have to take this because your pain is so bad. This may be the only thing that works. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, Twitter. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We want to give this president the opportunity to do something historic for our country.
That right there is Nancy Pelosi, and a group last week did something with that cut right there.
We want to give this president the opportunity to do something historic for our country.
Yeah, they slowed it down to about 70% to make it sound like she was slurring her words, which, by the way, I don't think you really need to do.
We want to give this president the opportunity to do something historic for our country.
Think about deep fakes. They're coming. If you don't know what a deep fake is, they are coming. And by the way, the social media world is ill-prepared for all of the insanity. If you thought the Russians, I always tell everybody, as bad as the Russians supposedly were, Americans were 1,000 times worse, spreading fake news and lies and BS and propaganda for both sides. Right? It's not just the Russians. The Chinese, the North Koreans, they're all coming. And this group did this thing where they slowed it down and made her sound like she'd had a stroke or she was having some sort of episode. And it was shared so many times. People were like, aha, look at that. And they blamed Trump for it. And Trump didn't share it or do anything. One of the times he didn't do something. Right? But be prepared. I'm telling you guys, that's why if you're serious about politics, right? You're like, I'm serious. I want to know the real thing that's going on out there, because we're not going to always know all of the stories. Some stuff we're just never going to know. But if you're serious about stories, you got to look and say, all right, I need to find out if this is real or not. YouTube took it down and several other, social media outlets banned it or took it down. But by then it had been shared so many times, it's hard to chase them all down. Because that's all it needs is one thing to go viral and away it goes. And it's from there on, you ain't stopping it. You're not. You're not going to get it. You are not going to stop it. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. So we've been talking about it. Some people are texting in. I want to hear from you. If you were going to go, what would be the thing you'd want to do? Do you want to do Everest? Right? Do you want to do, would that be your jam? Diving with great white sharks, not cage diving, but free diving. Space. Would space be your jam? Would you want to go to space? Right? Would that be something you want to do? What would you, if you're going to do your midlife crisis thing, because right now people are dying on Everest, and it's insane when you hear about what's going on there and just how bad it is getting up there right now.
You'd be sitting, sometimes standing still for 5, 10, 15 minutes in very cold conditions with very low oxygen because of the high altitude, and using up your oxygen while you're standing there waiting.
Yeah, your people are waiting. Just waiting. Like, here we are. I can see where I want to go. Can't we just tell people? Nope, got to take a picture. Otherwise, it never happened. Can't we just, it's like, oh, man, the battery's not charged. But there's this line, and last week was one of those things where you had to almost go and double check to see if the picture was real, because it didn't look real, that there were God knows how many people right there in line trying to get up to the top of Everest, and you're in that danger zone, right? That death zone, as they call it, where you don't really have oxygen. You start to go loony.
If you're really going slow enough, you could potentially run out of oxygen or have to make the decision to turn the oxygen flow rate to half what you need just so you don't run out.
Yeah. And people are dying. There's been 11 people, and now Nepal is deciding what they want to do. But it's an industry, right? It is an industry because Nepal, it's not cheap. It's $11,000 for a permit. You've got all kinds of guides there. The Sherpas make money. The people make money. It is an industry there. And it takes a long time, too. You don't just land on a Tuesday and I think we'll get up there next, try to do it on Sunday. You have to go there for weeks and months at a time to acclimate yourself. So you're spending money. You're there. Your base camp is, God, it was like 18,000 feet. So, I mean, it's just insane what goes into it. And all of these people are basically amateurs, and they're going up there and they're like, look at us. We're doing all this. It's going to be great. I'm doing this. It's going to be awesome. This one's for you. This is going to look great on my Instagram. And people are dying. People are dying. But if you were going to try something, shark, right? Would you go free diving with a great white shark? Would you go into space? Phil wants to go to space. We're sending Phil to space. Very excited for Phil to go to space. Would you do Everest? Would that be your jam? Or what would be your jam? Like, what's the thing you're like, oh, I've always wanted to try this? And that's the problem, though, is you can go, you can't go to space right now, but, you can go and do a cage dive with a shark. That's kind of somewhat, but even then, man, I'm telling you, I've had a couple buddies who've done some cage diving and are like, yeah, these people that are running these things, I don't know if they should be running these things. We may get you back. We may not. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. This is interesting. We talked a bit about this last week, and I'm telling you guys, this insanity of this crazy world that we live in, of, I don't even know what you call it anymore, this identity politics of nuttiness. But here's a perfect example of crazy identity politics. This right here is this was a question to Swalwell, who's running for president, and this is the first question they ask.
Why should another white guy be president?
Why does my color have anything to do with it? Well, because it does in this day of identity politics. So Alan Dershowitz sat down with Stossel to talk about a guy who was black and his wife, who's also black, who are both attorneys, who were representing somebody. Because in this day and age, we have a right to representation. That's the whole thing, and all the day and age we've been here, we have a right. But at Harvard, they don't really care.
A Harvard professor representing Harvey Weinstein is out as a faculty dean.
Did you hear about the law professor who just lost a job for daring to be a lawyer for an accused sexual harasser?
Sullivan was also verbally abused, and the residence where he lives with his family was vandalized.
Ronald Sullivan and his wife have been deans at this Harvard dorm for years. But now some students say,
as a survivor of sexual assault, I don't feel safe in Winthrop House.
This campaign by a group called Our Harvard Can Do Better worked.
Dean Sullivan must step down.
Harvard removed Sullivan and his wife from the residence hall.
Yeah, because that's what you do in the real world, right? You just say, I don't like this, I feel uncomfortable, and away you go.
They feel unsafe, they say.
They're lying. They're lying.
Alan Dershowitz taught law at Harvard for decades.
Anybody who says they feel unsafe in the presence of a lawyer and his wife are looking you in the eye and committing the equivalent of perjury. They don't feel unsafe. They've learned the language of the new McCarthyism. The mantra of the day is, we feel unsafe. Well, that's just too bad. Learn to deal with it. You're going to have to live in the real world in which your neighbors, your friends, your relatives are going to disagree with you. And if you start using the criteria of unsafe in your life, you're going to be a failure. More important, I don't care if you're a failure. You're going to impose restrictions on the rest of us.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's always worried me about this craziness. Remember, this younger generation is going to be able to scare people into doing things because they're going to be worried. We talk about it all the time. What are CEOs worried about? They're not worried about a downturn in the economy. They don't want that, but they can weather that storm. That's something they understand that may happen. Their product may not sell the way they want. Advertising may not go the way they want. It may be costing too much to get their product out there. They got to figure out how to change that. The economy itself may be down, sales slump, but eventually the rebound's coming. The bad thing that's coming is the what if scenario on social media that may hurt you. Well, the what if on social media is going to start to be coming to a company near you where they're going to be coming in and making these insane demands. This younger generation is coming in, and it only takes one or two of those to change everything.
Don't the students have a right to say, look, we're living with this guy. He creeps us out because of what he does. Get somebody else.
Well, if they could say that, then they could say it about somebody who supports Donald Trump for president, somebody who is a Muslim, somebody who's gay, somebody who's Jewish, you name it. We need to educate our students that free speech is for everybody. Due process is for everybody.
Yeah, due process is for everybody. But in the end, this isn't about due process, not about the actual, hey, this guy's representing somebody. No, this is about intersectionality and victimhood. The language, the lingo. That's what this has become. College campuses nationwide. What is coming to potentially this woke left, as we talk about, even though Biden is crushing it in the polls, part of that is because the people that are doing this and saying this and who want to change all of these things in the world where you have to say this, you have to say the right thing, you can't joke about anything, God forbid, it's no longer what you said, it's how it's taken, all of these kind of things, it's identity politics. These people are coming to work next to you. And they've been indoctrinated, and they have this belief of the only thing that they are victims, and you must recognize their victimness.
Their speeches cited an ever-growing list of aggrieved groups.
Ensure the safety and well-being of all students and workers in their houses, including survivors, transgender and gender nonconforming people.
It's like an Olympics of oppression.
Everybody wants to claim the mantle of victimization. The more victimized you are, the higher your status and prestige.
LGBTQ people, undocumented, documented, and TPS people.
And the more you can claim that you're part of the oppressed group rather than the oppressor, you win the oppression Olympics.
Indigenous people, first generation, low income people, and people otherwise marginalized.
What is otherwise marginalized? That should be or all of the above or to be announced. We haven't quite made it up what you are. Somehow, in some way, shape, or form, you are marginalized. And that's why when you look at the politics of the left right now, and I'm not talking about the average Democrat. I'm talking about the extreme left that houses the sounding board that is this world of everything is racism, everything is sexism, everything is identity politics. It doesn't work in the real world. But it's coming to you, so you're going to have to figure out how to maneuver around it. And that's why we talked last week. I mean, men are one of the most important things that we talk about in this day and age of how people can get ahead is mentoring. And men are no longer want to mentor women in the workplace out of fear of being what? In trouble. They don't want to do it. So they're just stopping it. And then women are upset. Well, why is that? Because everybody's afraid nowadays to do something. Because of this fear of identity politics, whatever it is, lawsuits. They're walking on pins and needles and eggshells, and they don't know which one's better. Then they look over, and their next best option may be hot coals.
You have to call yourself a victim today to feel welcome at many universities.
The protesters' strongest point is that the residence hall is an intimate space where students eat, sleep, and study. Shouldn't they get the dean they want? At the Marginal Revolution blog, Tyler Cowen writes, Harvard's right. It's about helping students focus on their studies. removing distractions. I can see their point. These people live together.
I don't see their point at all. You'll live in a world where there are going to be many distractions. You're not going to live in a world where you can determine everything according to your own view. If you want to do that, move to China or Iran. You want to go to American University, you have to learn how to deal with distractions.
No, but they don't. They don't, and they don't want to. What they want is to change everything. They want to change everything so it fits their perfect utopia. And that's, people say, well, in the real world, they're not going to get that. No, in the real world, they are. Because they're going to sue, they're going to whine, they're going to scream, and they're going to put enough fear of God into people that they're either going to stop hiring certain people, like my friend, who's a broker, owns a brokerage firm, will not hire women anymore, and has separated the men and the women just because it's so much easier. Doesn't want the hassle anymore. Doesn't want the hassle. You're going to find more and more of that. It's being woke looks exhausting. It does. The marginalized and the otherwise she said the otherwise marginalized. What does that even mean? 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Roman is easy to use, guys. A lot of people struggle with ED. 70% of men do not even go to a doctor. They don't want to talk to a doctor about it. They just ignore the situation. Don't do it anymore. Roman's made everything so easy. It's a one-stop shop. Licensed U.S. physicians diagnose ED and ship medication right to your door. There's no waiting rooms, no awkward face-to-face, no uncomfortable trips to the pharmacy. None of that. Simple, easy. Go to GetRoman.com/Benson. Complete a dynamic online visit. You chat with a doctor right there, and you get genuine medication delivered to your door in undiscreet, unmarked packaging. It is never been easier, and it's a free online visit. Do it. Simple. It's easy. Don't say, oh, I don't want to do. No, just do it. And it's free. Free online visit. Free is pretty easy in the comfort of your own home. GetRoman.com/Benson. 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 Chad Benson Show.
Being antisocial sucks. Hang with Chad's friends on Facebook, The Chad Benson Show. And if you just need some alone time, head on over to Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Either way, we can't wait to meet the real you.
Can I have my 2004 brain back if I play this guy? I think I could hold my own against him even today, but I would need some breaks. It would be all about who found the daily doubles. And usually on Jeopardy, I don't need a lot of breaks.
Yeah, that's Ken Jennings talking about James Holzhauer, who's still motoring along, doing his thing. It's all about what?
I think I'm just kind of lucky in a way that the buzzer technique I practiced turned out to be such a successful one.
Yeah, somebody's going to come along and beat the guy. Somebody's going to come along, right? And they're going to be able to get the breaks to beat James Holzhauer. And they're going to have the right technique, because that seems to be a lot of what it is that technique with the buzzer.
You know what bothers me is when I hear people say Jeopardy James. I'm like, no. I'm that guy. You can't put Jeopardy in front of his name. I used to be the Jeopardy guy.
You're not anymore, because this guy's going to beat your record at the rate he's going to, and he's going to do it quicker than you. And he's got it, right? He's got a little something. Sometimes people are just better. Well, that's not very nice, Chad. Shouldn't be better. That's not fair. That's not. No, but he's had a couple close calls, right? A few close calls. But Jeopardy James is crushing it. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. We were talking about Everest. People are trying to get up Everest, and there's just all kinds of stuff going on, like a traffic jam.
I can't see someone trying to manage a traffic jam like that and the Hillary steps. It's very complicated.
Yeah, it is very complicated. Costs a lot of money to do it. People are dying. 11 people have died so far this year. I think it's 200 in the last century have died, but it has been a very deadly year. And the weather hasn't been horrible, which is usually what gets you. It's the fact that you're up there in the death zone for such a long time because it's so busy. Crazy. 323-538-2423. If you had a chance, what would you do? Everest? Go to space? Free dive with a great white shark? Let us know. Tweet at us as well. Here's your useless information of the day. We talk about opioids and their addiction. At one time, heroin was prescribed for things like a cough and headache. Think of that. Oh, my goodness. Have a good rest of your day. As always, night-night, Jack.
This is The Chad Benson Show.